Hello, my beautiful people. How are we? Daniel is also here
Hello, 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 hello.
in the background.
As always.
Yes, as he always does. We did not do a live show for anxious people last month. There was just a lot going on last month.
It was. But we also have to have no pressure.
Yeah.
But we'll do it when and if we can.
And then obviously this month we've missed a month, and I feel like we should do that every so often because I feel like there's a lot of pressure sometimes when you are like reading, like you've got to read a certain book every month, and I'm very much a mood reader, so sometimes I'm just not in the mood, so that can be a bit difficult. But Starter Villain, I was really excited to read that, and I'm really glad I did. And how do you pronounce the author's name?
Scalzi.
See, I see
Possibly.
Scalzi.
I mean, it could be.
I'm not really sure. So yeah. Hey Steph, how are you? Got the itchiest eye, I apologise.
But no, it's quite good having the break as well, because I think we've all got our own TBR piles.
Yeah.
That we need to kind of crack on with at times as well.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you just don't know what you want to read. It's quite kind of just open for interpretation on how you feel.
That is really true. I am going to be picking a book for July soon. I can't believe that we're away to pick a book for July. How is it July coming? But
6 months till Christmas.
Stop it, get out. I think if we all kind of decide today what kind of book we would like to read, and then I'll come up with some suggestions in the Discord. Steph is tired, but she is good. Steph.
As are we all.
I've just had an accidental nap of my Saturday afternoon, so I feel you.
For how long?
The last time I remember looking at the clock, it was 1:30, and then the next time I looked at it was about 5:05. But I did text you at like 3ish. I don't really remember that.
Must have been half asleep.
Yeah.
But we blame it on Ziggs, as we always
do. Ziggs crawled underneath the blanket whilst I was watching American Horror Story, and it was his fault. Same. I also not long woke up as well. See, it must be like a Saturday nap is like a really good thing. I like a little nap. I mean, that was probably classed more as a sleep than a nap. But, never mind.
And we've got one scheduled for tomorrow after the market.
Yeah. So Daniel has not had a nap today because he was working. But Daniel might be asked a question and might not reply as quickly because he's also got the football on beside him because it's the Euros, if you did not know. So if you hear, well, Scotland aren't playing, so you won't hear any shouting, hopefully. So it should be okay. But yeah, what did everybody rate Starter Villain? What did you think of it? What did I rate it again?
You never remember your rating.
No. Did I give it 4 stars?
I think you did.
Yeah.
I've been on a 4-star streak recently. Everything's 4-star just now.
Oh, I just gave out a 5-star today.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, the second in the Butcher and Blackbird, the Runus Love trilogy. I rated that 5 stars. I rated the first one 5 stars as well. It's a bit smutty. Steph rated it 4 stars, just had to look it up. I'm pretty sure I rated it 4 stars. No.
4 stars across the board then.
Did you rate it 4 stars as well?
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously this is a book discussion, so we are going to be talking about spoilers and things, so if you are in here and you've not read the book and you don't want to know, then that this is your warning. But yeah, so the concept of Starter Villain is that the main character, who I've totally forgotten his name, is down and out. He is living in his parents' house that him and his siblings all have a cut to, and he has this uncle that he hasn't spoken to. It's like his estranged uncle, because when his mother passed away, basically his uncle was yeeted from the family because dad didn't want anything to do with him. We all obviously discover why as we go into the book. And he basically inherits his uncle's company, and he is given this promise that they will buy the house that he is living in so that he doesn't have to kind of share it with his siblings, and that he'll be quite comfortable for the rest of his days. But that is obviously not how that goes, because his house gets blown up, and yeah. So let's talk about the funeral scene. The funeral scene, now this sounds a bit odd saying it because it was a funeral scene, that actually cracked me up. That was so funny when all of these people were coming and poking and prodding his uncle to figure out if his uncle was actually deceased.
I think the biggest thing as well, just before going into that, is that obviously he kind of had his marriage breakup and everything. So he was then kind of on his own. He lost his job. He was just at the bottom of everything.
Yeah.
And had dreams to kind of just be able to own a pub, trying to get a loan, getting rejected for loans.
Yeah.
Just finding everything hard to then obviously get some news.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously part of that entailed him having to attend the funeral and can just be there for his uncle they didn't really know. But as always, there's strings attached.
There is. What did we think about the letter that he got? What was it he got? Was it spoons or something? A spoon or something that he got from his uncle?
Like a set.
Yeah.
Like a fancy set.
Yeah, that you only take out like when the Queen comes to visit. I think a lot of people get wedding gifts like that. Maybe not so much now, but I think like back in the day, like you would get like a plate set that you would only, like your fancy china. That was usually like wedding gifts.
As long as there's a gravy boat there, you'd be happy.
I love a gravy boat. But yeah, so the note said, what was it said again? It was like basically to the date that when his marriage
3 years
would end.
Yeah, so like 3 years time that can happen.
And the only explanation I can remember for that is the fact that the woman who was kind of looking after his estate and things just said he knew things.
And he's had tabs on him the whole time as well.
Yeah, but I don't know how we would know from the exact date. It was quite impressive.
Yeah.
Because I thought there was going to be some sort of magical realism element into that, which would have explained it, but there wasn't. What's Steph saying? That part, let's start again. That part, I was like, well, of course he did. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a funeral, but then realised he had faked his death. Yeah, see, as I was going through the book, because Daniel finished it before me, which is a surprise.
Incredible!
Yeah, and I was convinced up until maybe about 70% in that the uncle was still alive. Like, that's, I thought, oh, they keep mentioning that he's faked his death, so obviously they're trying to tell us that he's faked his death and he's still alive. But yeah, that wasn't the case. But yeah, it was a really funny scene when everyone was coming to his funeral and the guy pulled out the knife, and obviously our main character was like, what the hell, like, what are you doing?
Sure he's dead.
Yeah, and he obviously had no idea of what was going on with it, and he didn't know the type of business that his uncle was in. He just thought his uncle owned, was it car parks. So for people to come to the funeral with knives and things to try and make sure that he's dead, that is quite a strange thing to sort of be like subjected to. That is not normal behavior. And some of the flower arrangements also cracked me up as well. And like the vicar that was doing the funeral, when he was like, oh, we've got a Facebook group or whatever, and we actually post like the worst things that people like bring in flowers for funerals. Because it was something along the lines of like,
all the notes were just
they were so comical,
passive aggressive, or glad you're dead.
But could you imagine if you were in a situation where that was your uncle and you didn't know very much about them at all you kind of knew was that they owned like a car parking business? Like, would there not be so many flags and alarm bells going off in your head, like, why on earth is this happening? Like, he was just a normal man.
I think that was all part of it as well. Kind of judge of character and stuff like that, or so it seemed, for the reason to what's going to happen next. And
then let's talk about my favorite concept in the book.
To begin with, the dolphins.
No, it wasn't the dolphins, but it is an animal. It was the cats.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely loved the fact that the cats were such a big part of the story and that they were like technol technologically advanced in a way that they could type on a computer and had been watching him and were like these militant type cats. I just thought that was really cool and clever. But the dolphins did crack me up, and like their names were just genius.
Well, just with the cats, sorry, going back to that, because it was all just so inconspicuous that they were always kind of outside of the house if something bad was happening inside the house, and their alertness to everything, and how they just randomly came out of a bush and he obtained them
Yeah.
in that fashion. And then to find out, obviously, that they have been keeping tabs on him.
Yeah.
I mean, don't we wish that we could communicate with our cats?
Yeah, I do sometimes when I tell the boys that I love them, wish that they would say it back. And like, there's a weird hope. Like
But we
one
have
day,
5. Imagine they did talk and they wouldn't stop talking.
I mean, Ziggy does talk all the time, but we just don't know what he's saying. Same with Morty. He talks quite a lot. They're both very vocal boys. So I think Ziggy would just chat our heads off like all the time. Like, Mom, guess what I did today? Mom, I did this. Mom, I did this. Mom, I did this. Oh my goodness, Mom, I did this. Oh, Mom, watch me do this. Oh, look. Mom, I'm gonna go next to the TV. Look at this.
Yeah, get a bit annoying.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Like having children.
But yeah, what did everyone sort of think of when the story started to open up and we started to figure out that he was not a car salesman? I mean, we kind not car salesman. Where did I pull that from? Wasn't a car park owner. I mean, it was in the title, and you did kind of know going in that he was going to be going into a villain sort of situation. But like, our main character did come across as quite an average Joe kind of guy, and he was just plummeted into this world of absolute chaos. That's how I read that. He was in places where hotels were blown up. He had guns pointed at him. I mean, a couple of days previously, he had been in a bank, like basically lying his pants off, trying to say that he wanted to buy this bar because everybody in his city or town went to this bar and it was going to close down. So he just wanted to keep it going. So he was just very average in that kind of way. And then he was plummeted into that. What did everybody think of, like, how would you feel in that situation if it happened to you?
I think there's 2 ways you go about it. You either point blank refuse to kind of acknowledge everything and think, you know what, Uncle wasn't a big part of my life. Dad didn't want him around us for a reason. I'll respect that. Sorry, goodbye. Or the curiosity kind of gets a hold of you. And I think for him, I don't think it was a curiosity for him. I think it was more so he just wanted to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to be there for his uncle, and for whatever reason, there wasn't anyone else family wise or friend wise.
Yeah, it was only really him.
And foes.
Yeah. And it's what I found weird was it was him that was selected to do it out of all of his siblings. It was him, but then it was his step siblings, wasn't it? It wasn't like his real. I mean, obviously, step siblings are still real siblings, but you know what I mean. They weren't blood relatives, whereas our main character was a blood relative to the uncle. But yeah, it was really interesting to sort of find out so much about our main character, but not through him, but through what his uncle knew about him. I find that quite fascinating.
What was the guy called again that tried to stab him at the funeral? Like the dead body. Was it Stabby Joey? Is that we call him or something? Stabby.
Oh, stabber someone?
Can't remember. But it just refers to him as that the whole way through the book.
Yeah, and he didn't actually call him by his real name. Was it like Stabby McStabberson or? Can't remember either. But yeah, that was quite funny.
He essentially has this one person that kind of relays with him all the information on what kind of happens next after that.
Yeah.
And then that's where we get introduced to the island.
Steph said, I got very confused by it at times with all the twists and turns that I've never seen any of them coming, so was pretty surprised by it. I would be like the MC and see what it was all about. Yeah, I would kind of be the same. I'd be really intrigued to find out what was actually going on. Not for like the money side of it, just because the mum and the uncle got on really well. So I think for like the mum side of it, I think you would be more invested in being there for her brother, because it sounds like he was quite close to his mum, so that made a lot of sense. But yeah, what do we think of like the island?
Talking dolphins.
Yeah. What were their names again? It's
like fuckface, dipshit.
Yeah, they were so rude as well, which was just so funny. They were just the most abrasive dolphins.
But again, going from just like you said, living your normal life,
mm-hmm.
and then obviously people come to stab your uncle or trying to inject them with stuff or anything, then going to an island to find out that you're getting introduced with talking dolphins that are just shouting and swearing at you and calling you all the names under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would have ran at that point.
Well, you also discover that your cat speaks to you as well. Yeah. And you don't understand why all these stray cats are like coming into your house, and now you do because they're not stray at all. I'd be a bit upset about that actually, because I'd feel like there was lots of stray cats coming. You'd feel like you were the chosen one, but you wasn't really the chosen one. Yeah. Like they were just.
But again, it's just if you're just going about your day to day and you just see a cat, you don't think anything else of it. It's either do I leave it or do I take it in?
Yeah. Steph said, "I loved it with the idea of the dolphins. Who you would expect to be cute and totally different." Yeah, I wasn't expecting the dolphins to be really rude and crass and the way they
agitated,
were.
Remember?
Yeah,
they were wanting to go on strike.
Yeah, they were annoyed, and it was funny because then they got that opportunity as well to go on strike, and they were like, "Dolphins have rights too."
I think that's where we started getting an inclination to all the other kind of businesses that his uncle had. And obviously it went kind of bigger. There was a whole constitution with all other kind of, I suppose we could refer to them either as villains or, I mean, mob members.
Yeah, it was very mafia mob-esque. And like everybody that I envisioned that were like side characters, they had on like the leather long jackets, the really short hair, like your typical, like what people in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels wear. Like shady characters. Yeah. That's how I envisioned them. But I have never read a book like this before.
I think that's it, because they're introducing like the name of like how they operate as villainous and that they're villains, but they're calling themselves that so that no one else can kind of give them that title.
Yeah.
And it's as every villain thinks that they're doing something good, obviously to the majority they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And again, it's just kind of getting into the psyches of all the different people who were in the constitution but representing themselves in their own businesses for different reasons, but they can work together in order to try and make more money.
Because then there's the side of it with the organization as well, and all the twists and turns that came and all the dodgy dealings, because they basically wanted the organization to no longer exist because everyone was going to get a cut, and the less people that are on the organization, the bigger the cut you basically get, which is how it ended up. So that when the hotel got.
Well, before all that, remember you had all the meetings, and that's kind of where our main protagonist was getting tested. You know, it's like they were all kind of trying to befriend him in a way because he has now inherited so much in their eyes to what they could then suckle out of him.
Yeah.
And since he's obviously, they know everything about him, his whole backstory, that, you know, I mean, he's not like the cleverest guy in this kind of aspect of life.
Yeah.
So they can take advantage of that. But to obviously, the main guy's advantage, he was actually quite smart.
Yeah.
You know, he kind of worked a few things out and he didn't give them what they want straight away. And they just had carrots dangling for a little bit until he sussed everything out.
Yeah, and it was very much like he was being tested as well to kind of see what kind of a man he actually was, even though they'd been watching him for all that time. I quite liked that side of it as well. And it was like his uncle knew what way he was going to go before he even did it. That was really good as well. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this book.
For the political side, you said you were a bit.
Yeah,
it's not too political, but there's enough in there if you don't like it to get annoyed at it.
Yeah, so like the politics within like the different organizations, definitely I got a bit bored of. Well, not even bored. I just found it difficult to follow, and I wasn't really that interested in that side of it. And I feel like that's what kind of brought it down to a 4-star for me. But I know why it was there, like the purpose and everything, like there was a reason for it and it should have been in it. But just for me personally, it doesn't work well for me. And I struggle with that type of like political aspects.
It's where the plot thickened a little bit in terms of
It was.
what happened to his mum and
Yeah.
why his dad then didn't want to speak to his uncle, and all that stuff would come from it. But you'd have to be paying attention to those like this.
I think because it made less sense to me, the political parts of it, I think it made the twists and turns even more surprising for me because I wasn't fully following what was happening and didn't really fully understand the political side of it. So then when something big did kind of come out of it, it actually was a surprise.
Yeah.
Like I didn't see it coming, because usually when I'm reading things, I'll like have like bits that I can see that are coming, or I'll be trying to like form what's happening together. But this book just didn't really do that for me.
Yeah.
It just kind of blew me away with the directions that it went into.
Yep.
So that was good.
I think it's dependent on what type of story you like. Do you like it from like a main protagonist point of view, or do you like it from an overall subjective view? You know what I mean? It's dependent on what you enjoy.
I think it depends. Yeah, it just depends on what. It's different every book. It's really.
I always like it like this because you're always feeling the emotions of what's happening there and then for that character. So you're essentially going through that journey.
Yeah.
With him or feeling like you are him.
Steph said it was a 4-star for me because it wasn't one I thought I need to reread this again, but it was really good. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I don't generally reread that often. I think this year is the year that I've reread the most. Because I think I've had 2 rereads this year. And that was for book club.
Suggest something for book club, you're like, but I've read that.
I know, I want to read something new. And this was quite unusual for book club as well, because we usually don't read a brand new release because it's not even on paperback yet. So it's still really, I think it only came out like November or something last year. So that's really not like us to pick a newer book. But there was just something about this book that it just really drew my attention to, and I just thought it would be a brilliant pick.
But this is what I love about book club, because I know at the start I wasn't kind of right into reading everything straight away. I think it was In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. It was so out of character for me to read, and I was like, you know what, like maybe this is the enjoyment I can get from book club as well as reading things. So again, that book was great, and there's a couple other books by him that I now want to go and read.
Yeah.
So it opens up or broadens the horizons a little bit.
So what are we thinking for next month? Do we want to go thriller?
We're not finished yet.
No?
Well, not on this.
No? What else do you have to say?
Well, we still have the hotel kind of blown up. We didn't really go into much
depth
or detail.
Well, like you start that then.
And then the Twisty and Attorney. Near the end, you've got the warehouse with all the World War memorabilia and relics and stuff that was meant to be worth gazillions. Do
you know what's really weird is I've just watched American Horror Story Cult, and there was a section in that was similar to Starter Villain. So I forgot that actually happened in the book because I've just watched that on that instead.
Well, where we're kind of up to in the book now, I would say is almost about halfway. Where obviously, like we said, he's just been going about his own business. He's been asked to go to the funeral. He's then been asked to kind of essentially go to this island and kind of take over stuff, but he doesn't know what's going on. Gets to the island, there's talking dolphins, he finds out the cat's talking, and then he starts meeting the people that were obviously friends. Yeah, apparently, all of his uncle, and they've all got their own agenda, and they're trying to manipulate him to get the money, and then they try and coerce him one-on-one. Yeah, and then that's where the hotel kind of stuff gets going on. So you've got Dabrov.
Yeah, which I did not call him that. I called him a different name.
It could be something else, but I'm just going by memory.
You know, like when you're reading a book and you see a character's name and you just like make it up in your head, and then someone says it out loud and you're like, who? That's like not what I call them.
Is that like when you see a long number but it's got no purpose to what you're actually
Yeah, so you don't read it, you just read past it. Yeah, or like a place name that you just don't have any idea how to pronounce, and then you just skip it every time it comes up.
This Dabrov character, I actually really liked him.
I liked him as well.
He was so friendly but manipulative, but at the same time, if anyone was going to manipulate me, I'd wanted to be him.
Yeah.
And yeah, then just a random kind of explosion happens in the hotel when they're having a one-on-one meeting, and then SWAT guys start coming in through the window.
Yeah.
Tearing up the place, try to obviously kill them, and the great thing about that, though, is again the main character that we've both forgotten his name now.
Yeah.
Is it George? No, it wasn't.
No.
I'm going to start throwing up random.
Can't remember what his name is. I don't even know my.
I suppose we go straight on to another book because I just went on to Matt Haig's Humans.
Yeah.
Humans. So we go into another book and then you can just forget. But anyways, he then flees. But then as he's trying to escape the hotel, he just clicks and thinks, "Oh no, the cats! Like I can't kind of leave the cats." And he goes back up to the room.
Yeah.
So he goes running back up to his room to obviously go and try and get the cat, to which he manages to because they've got no thumbs. And that's where he then gets kind of ambushed by. Well, we never mentioned that CIA guy, who was like,
oh yeah,
he's kind of involved with trying to figure out what happened with the explosion in the first place back at his house.
Yeah.
And obviously the CIA and all that are looking for him and stuff, but he's then working for one of the guys in the Constitution.
Yeah.
So then people come into his kind of hotel room and start kind of putting the gun in his face.
Yeah.
To which then the cat attacks one of the guy's face and scratches it all up. And then there's a couple of double crossings from the agents who they thought they were working with each other, but they're actually there to save the main character because there's a higher agenda with him. That's all from me from the hotel side.
That was quite a lot from the hotel side. You
Oh yeah, but then Dad apparently.
Steph says, according to Goodreads, the main character is called Charlie. You are correct. It is Charlie. Yep.
Amazing, Steph. Well, I mean, we technically should have pre-planned things, but I think that's what Katie and I love, just getting stuff into.
I've just napped.
You
I didn't have any prep time.
I know, but like, it's so people do it so officially and try and have all the notes, but I quite like try to just challenge the brain to see what you actually remember just off the cuff.
I don't remember a lot though when it comes to books, but I mean, I've read 2 books since this.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult for my brain to then remember what is where.
It's depending on why you read. Do you read to retain information or do you read for the journey?
And I think I just read for the journey.
Yeah.
And then once it's over, I'm like, okay.
And it sticks with you for a couple of days.
Don't get me wrong. Some books, like, I can remember so many details. A Little Life, I could probably recite that whole book to you, all 700 odd pages, because that is like embedded in my brain. Same with certain scenes in Stephen King's It. Like, I do retain some of the story, but when it's just kind of like I'm going through the journey, I won't retain a huge amount of it. I'll remember like certain bits of it. So like when we read How High We Go in the Dark, like I remember certain scenes of that, and then you would talk about it and I was like, I don't even remember that happening.
Yeah.
And to this day I still don't even remember half of that book. I just remember my favorite parts of it, and I wish that's what we were doing throughout the whole book, but never mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall it was a really good book.
Well,
and I really enjoyed it.
After that, we then obviously got the big double cross.
Daniel should just take over today.
No, honestly, there's certain books that kind of just they hit you right, and I mean, to be honest with you, from what we've explained, it doesn't sound massively immersive.
Not a lot happens.
It's the depth,
like dramatically.
Yeah, it's the depth of it. So obviously you've got that whole constitution, and the uncle didn't join it, but they were wanting Charlie to join it.
He did join it though.
But he didn't.
But he technically did.
But then there was a bit at the end though that then.
Yeah, but he technically, in their eyes,
he wanted them to think.
Yeah, so technically in their eyes they thought he was a member, which means that Charlie inherited it. But obviously, as it progressed, he wasn't technically a member. But when you're reading it, he was technically a member for a short period of time, but he wasn't.
Yeah. But then kind of as it progressively goes on after the hotel kind of blown up and stuff like that, people then just start getting peeled off one by one to make that constitution smaller. So then that main guy, I can't remember his name actually, the one that he kept in the video calls with.
Yeah.
It was like, is this a secure network?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, I think so. And he's like, are you sure? I don't see a padlock.
Yeah.
And he just kept closing the lid.
Kept tying up on him.
But he then became like the main guy after that, trying to get all the stuff that was in that warehouse, to which you needed all of them to put their hands on to actually unlock it. So you needed 6 of them to put it on. So it was a whole kind of ruse to get everyone to it on good terms, to then everyone puts their hand on it, including Charlie, and then it opens up this warehouse to where there's supposed to be billions worth in there, to then find out that there's sweet F all in there.
Yeah, all empty crates.
But before that, once they got in, that main guy then popped off a couple of them, kind of there and then. So then there was only a couple of them left to then figure out that there was nothing there, and you've just killed like the majority of the Constitution.
Yeah.
But then that became the unrevealing of that was the uncle's plan all
along.
Was to take down the Constitution. And Charlie wasn't even going to inherit any of that.
No. And there was so much money that was like held up that he wasn't even allowed to touch either.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was quite funny.
Investments and
but I mean, he was set for life like afterwards. Like,
but if you think you've got trillions, well, not trillions, billions, or however much, like in assets and properties and businesses and things like that, to then get told, you know what, Charlie, we're just using you as a pawn to take down the Constitution, and now you can just go back to your life. Here's 50 grand.
But he's got a house. He's got a house and he's got a new car, because he always talks about how he's got his dad's old like barrier.
Yeah.
And
so obviously the house blew up.
Yeah.
And then the house that he's now living in was actually the house of the cats. The cats had their own house.
Yeah. Because, well, did they not describe it as like a B&B?
Yeah.
Or like an Airbnb, sorry. But it was actually where the cats lived. And it's quite funny because I think the cats deserve a house. And if Daniel and I had enough money, the boys would have a house.
But I thought what was great about that with the cats as well is that at the end, one of them was saying, look, Charlie, we're going to have to kill you, or we're going to have to send you to like a remote island, and you're going to have to live off the grid because you know too much.
Yeah.
And then the cat vouched for him, saying, look, I'll take responsibility if anything happens.
Yeah.
But he's all good. And then I thought it was quite a full circle. He looked after the cats.
He was very kind to the cats, and it was nice to see the other way around, that they were like, no, we'll take care of him from here. So it was good in that way. Any final thoughts, anyone, on the book?
It was a nice read overall, I think. I just enjoyed all the twists, turns, the kind of comical sections of it as well. Just his obliviousness to all of what was going on.
It did make me chuckle quite a bit.
And I just enjoyed the way that he handled himself through all of these intimidating characters.
Yeah,
But he's got a journalist background, was it?
Yeah.
We've done a lot of kind of journalism, so he actually knew a lot about some of the companies that they
had
already in their portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that he was able to kind of just listen, take it all in, and then say a big spiel that just made them think. And
he knows. Yeah, because they just thought that he was useless and didn't know anything, and then he would come in with like all this knowledge, and then they would just kind of look at him like, oh, we maybe don't know.
And mocking them at times.
Yeah.
About trying, they meant to be the smartest people in the world with all the type of stuff that they got going on, but actually these are all skint, and that's why you're trying to get money out of me and uncle.
Yeah. There's another one of his books that you really want to read.
Yeah.
What is it called again?
The KJ Preservation or something.
Yeah,
like
I had a little look. So I
had a quick skim over it, but it seemed quite good.
I've got it on my Kindle, but there was another one of his books that I actually bought the paperback, and I've had it on my shelf for quite some time, and it's called Lock-In. So basically, John Scalzi, or Scale, however you pronounce it, is a sci-fi writer, and he wrote a book called Lock-In, which is about people that go under anesthesia and are awake during the operations. I really like the concept of that and the idea of it, even though it absolutely terrifies me. And I've never picked it up, and I think I've owned it for like since it came out. So that's something not unusual for me at all. But yeah, so there is quite a few of his books that I really do want to read, and he does seem to have quite a lot of them. So if you are looking for something else by him, there's plenty of options out there.
I forgot one last thing that happened at the end.
What?
Obviously, he got given a little lump sum of money. Mm-hmm. He got the house. He's got a car. He's kind of well off. But then, what other part of business did his uncle have? The pub.
Oh yeah, and he got the pub in the end. Yeah, that was really nice. Steph said, was a nice change from not enjoying the previous ones, that we all enjoyed this one. It was really good. Yeah, that is really unusual actually for us to. We don't usually enjoy it. Usually
read this one?
You what?
Does Amaya read this one?
What do you mean?
Does she read it?
I don't know. They're not here.
No.
I'm not sure.
No.
It's just Steph that I think is here. I'm not sure. I
wasn't sure because if they'd read that as well to see if we'd all given it the same.
Yeah.
Well, the three of us gave it the same. So.
Well, it's really unusual for us to all like something, because usually it's just little old me saying that I liked it, or you said you liked it, and then we're all like, we hate it. That
Was
one
How High We
sounds
Go in the
good.
Dark?
Need to have a look out for it.
Was that just us that done that? How High We Go in the Dark. That wasn't Book Club, was it?
It was Book
Oh,
Club.
was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was
You were the
another
only one
then.
that liked it, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, for next month, I'm thinking thriller.
'Cause it's a thriller.
What does everybody else think?
I am in a thriller mood. I've got Bird Box lined up for just next.
I'm not reading that.
Just for my read.
I've already read Bird Box. I'm not doing another reread.
Because I haven't read that yet. Whose turn is it to pick?
I think we're going to do a joint pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
So I'm going to see how everybody feels genre-wise, and then I will put up some suggestions, and then we can all vote or put up suggestions.
Good Omens!
No, that's not a thriller.
I know, but it's something kind of...
I'm pretty sure Good Omens, we've mentioned it before, and no one else wanted to read it. I'm not sure.
We'll think of some things.
Steph says, sounds good to me. I'll be on holidays by then anyway. Perfect.
Whereabouts are you going,
Are you
Steph?
going anywhere exciting? Also, has work and everything calmed down for you, Steph, or is it still really mental? Because I think you were on placement, was it? And there was a lot of stuff going on. What's everyone's plans for this evening? I know you're going to be watching football.
Yes.
I'm away to start the Murderbot series by Martha Wells. I'm starting with All Systems Red. I had to Google what the best order in which to read them was, and that is the first one that I've got to read. But they're like little novella type things. It's only 144 pages, so I could potentially finish it tonight. But we need to have dinner because I am starving. Don't know about you.
I forgot.
What?
That we still have to have dinner.
Yeah, we have to have dinner. So I'm gonna have dinner.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
Steph says not going anywhere. I finished placement yesterday, just 2 weeks left of uni, then it's summer holidays. Woohoo! I'm so glad that you are gonna get a break because it just sounds like you never get a break, Steph. So I think it'll be really good for you. Which means you can read all of the books. So that's exciting.
I feel like I'm at the calmest point in my life. Where it is just like...
It's a bit philosophical.
Yeah, it's just work, and it's reading, and it's you, and it's the cats, and it's the odd little adventure, like the market tomorrow. And it's all just very chill.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, on that note, I think we should go.
You know what?
But thank you very much for joining us. And I will be putting up the announcement video for July's book, but I will be speaking in the Discord. So if you have not joined our Discord, then please join our Discord. And we will chat in there. Steph said, yeah, 3 weeks off since September, so been a crazy time. It has been a crazy time. You deserve a break. But yeah, thank you so much for everybody coming. Any final thoughts, Daniel?
No.
No?
I think I'm in football mood now.
Football mood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mode.
Yes. Right. We will see you all next time. Well, you won't see Daniel, but you'll hear him. Thank you very much. Have a good night and a good weekend. See you all later. Bye.